Now, Scotland's rivers are famous around the world for one fish in particular, the Scottish salmon, of course.
But with the wild species fighting for survival, Professor James Logan has been finding out how scallop shells could be the key to their survival.
For more than 6 million years, wild Atlantic salmon have been migrating back from the ocean to spawn in the same Scottish rivers where they hatched. But more recently, rivers right across Scotland, like the Bladnoch here in Galloway, has seen a huge decline in salmon numbers. In fact, in some sections of the river, the salmon have completely disappeared. To find out what's causing that decline, biologist Casey Jess has been monitoring the Bladnoch and the burns or streams that feed into it. Hi Casey.
Hello.
Well, this looks like an interesting piece of kit.
So this is a water quality monitoring sonde, and it's essentially multiple probes in one. We're mostly interested in pH data. pH is the measure of acidity in a watercourse.
What is the ideal pH that you're looking for?
Ideally, we would like it to be as close to neutral as possible,
Okay.
which is pH 7.
pH 7.
But this burn on its worst days sits at around pH 4,
pH 4?
which is
okay.
very acidic.
And so what sort of impact does that level of pH have on the local salmon population?
When a watercourse is too acidic, fish eggs can't hatch. It prevents the enzyme getting released, so basically the eggs are glued shut.
What is it that's actually causing the acidification of the burn?
The rocks under the grass can't neutralise the acid rain when it falls. Another big issue here is Galloway is quite extensively covered in peatland. Historically, these peatlands have been heavily drained for different land use practices, and that is a big problem for acidification.
To help fight the rising acidity in the local waterways, Casey and the team at Galloway Fisheries Trust have come up with an intriguing solution. Scallop shells, a total of 700 tonnes of them. These scallop shells are being added to some of the main streams running into the Bladnoch. It's hoped the shells will neutralise the acidity of the water. Where have they come from?
These are from a local seafood processing company in Kirkcudbright.
So this is kind of a waste product, I suppose.
They are, yes.
What's actually happening when you put the shells in the water?
So the shells are made up of calcium carbonate, which is a great acid neutraliser, and in theory, once they go in this watercourse, they should slowly dissolve over time, releasing that calcium carbonate into the water column and hopefully making a difference to the pH.
So these should make it a much nicer place for salmon to be able to breed.
That's the hope.
As well as laying shells directly into the waterways, they're also spreading them on the high forest roads.
The idea is that as vehicles drive over them, they further crush these shells, and then when we get rainfall, that washes the crushed shells, the calcium, into the roadside ditches, and then enter some of the watercourses and into the main river up here, and that helps to combat the low pH acid flushes that we get.
Thankfully, not all the streams feeding into the Bladnoch are heavily acidic. In those surrounded by mineral soils rather than degraded peatland, the salmon are managing to spawn successfully. So we're in an idyllic location. The Bladnoch main river is just behind us. This is a tributary, but it's a healthier tributary, and we know that because we've got fish.
Yes, got a whole bucket of salmon here.
Wow.
So the smaller ones, they'll be just turning 1 year old. They'll have hatched from their eggs last winter.
Yep.
And the bigger ones, they'll be about 2 years old, and they'll be getting ready to head out to sea now. You can see how silver it's become.
Wow.
This salmon has undergone quite a lot of physiological changes to allow them to live in the ocean.
So this little chap's got a bit of a journey ahead of him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And that journey will take him out to the Atlantic before returning in a year or two to spawn. We're not going to know the results of this brilliant project for a couple of months, but the hope is the scallop shells will neutralise the water in the river so that when salmon return from sea to spawn here, their eggs will survive and go on to produce the next generation. Go on, off you go.
Oh, thank you, James.